first, all those crazy lawsuits that you hear about making millions, well, how common are they? Joining us right now, we have attorney Brent Burks with the McMahan Law Firm, and we're talking about frivolous lawsuits here in the state of Tennessee. First question is really, how common are they? Are there some frivolous ones going on right now?
Well, thank you, Brian. I would like to, I talk to juries all the time, and it's one of the things I do day to day, week to week, and I'm always reminding people, have they ever heard of a frivolous lawsuit in the state of Tennessee? Have they ever heard of one in Hamilton County? And that's one of my favorite things to talk to them about. I suppose if you studied it hard enough, you might find something that's a little bit crazy, but the ones that you always hear about are somewhere like California or New York, not to pick on those people, but we've got common sense people here. Right. Just because cases get filed also, I'd like to point out, doesn't mean that those cases are ever going to see a jury or ever going to see a conclusion in a court. There are a lot of different mechanisms in place.
And of course, when we're talking about frivolous lawsuits and the crazy lawsuits out there, you know, the ones that you hear about on television, and, you know, we're suing for millions, and, you know, the lawyer runs away happy and everything. But that's, I mean, that's not the case here. Are there mechanisms that are in place to protect people from some of these meaningless lawsuits? Absolutely,
and that's what the public doesn't know. There are many mechanisms in place. We have a rule called Rule 11 that says if I sign as a licensed lawyer a pleading that doesn't have facts that are true, I can be censured, disbarred, sanctioned in different ways. There are cost-shifting mechanisms in place if I file cases that are not merit-based. There are many other, there are summary dismissals. If a judge hears a case and believes that the facts would never warrant a verdict from a jury, it won't go to a jury. Finally, what the public doesn't see many times when they hear about a very large verdict, there are a couple of things that come to mind. Number one, is that verdict ever collectible? Is there insurance there for it?
Sure.
There are $1 million verdicts where there's $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 in insurance. Secondly, there are courts of appeals above those trial courts that do look at those verdicts and many times overturn them, and both sides have an equal opportunity to file those appeals. So there's a lot of built-in mechanisms to keep there from being any, quote, runaway juries, which I would challenge anybody to say does not happen in Tennessee.
Sometimes on the news we hear this term called tort reform. What is tort reform, and is there a need for, well, more of it here in Tennessee?
Well, it's a good question, and I like to talk to a lot of people about this too. First of all, what is a tort? A tort is a civil wrong, and the simplest thing I can tell people is negligence. I'm in my car and I'm driving too close to someone and I rear end them. That's simple negligence. Everybody understands that. I shouldn't do that. If I cause damage or injury to them, then I should pay, or in most cases, my insurance company hopefully would pay for my damages. Right. But in Tennessee, just like on the federal level, we have a constitutional right to a jury trial. And tort reform, as we've had a local judge rule, infringes upon that jury's right to make that decision. The Founding Fathers were very concerned about having too much power in a president or a governor in the state, in a legislature or in a court, so they wanted those separation of powers. And what I like to tell people is, you know, we can trust people in the ballot box to elect people. Why can't we trust them in the jury box? And it sounds like a slogan, but it's true, and there's just no evidence of runaway verdicts in Tennessee.
Now, there's another one that's out there. Lots of times we think about medical malpractice, product liability. We want to go after the hospital, or go after the company, or go after that, you know, that particular product. Are there many of those that are out there? You know, we may hear about a couple that are on television, but...
Sure, and I looked at some statistics on that. This is from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Medical malpractice with products liability, just those two combined account for only 8% of all lawsuits that are filed. So that may be a misconception that people have. The vast majority of cases are either company versus company, right, over some contractual matter, or the most common tort type case is auto accidents. So you generally have individuals versus individuals. In Hamilton County, another interesting statistic, in 2014, the average award on an automobile accident case was $24,700 in 2014.
Wow.
2013, $12,600 and some change. So, long story short, there's no real evidence of any runaway juries in Tennessee. Tort reform is really taking power away from the people, right, in the jury box and putting it in the legislature.
All right, well, this is great information here, answering some great questions here. And of course, if you have a question on any sort of legal matter, feel free to give the guys down at McMahan Law Firm a call. They are located there at 323 High Street in Chattanooga. The phone number is 423-265-1100. Again, 265-1100. You can go to their website, which is McMahanLawFirm.com. Appreciate